One thing about the destination specialist, which I find incredible, is how many hours you guys train, 900 plus hours and
Yep.
decades in the industry. A lot of them live there. Can you take us through an example or just in general? I think it's just so compelling for the person who's watching this, excuse me, for the person who's watching this is going to say, okay, well, Stu knows me. That's great. And he runs it and he's got a ton of experience, but what does this person really know about South America? I know you guys are big in South America and Africa
That,
and Asia.
sure.
Asia.
So a couple of different things. So one of the things I'm really proud of is the fact that I'm not the smartest person in my office. I have my team. 50% of my destination specialists hold either MBAs or master's degrees. That's the first start. Secondly, 40% of them are former guides in different destinations. So they cut their teeth something as simple as airport transfer to understanding how, for example, a couple gets along or doesn't get along. We guides have to know when to be marriage counselors. They have to know when to be experts. Have to know when to be historians. They have to know when to be babysitters. And being able to know when to be all four or none or one or both, and then being able to also go off script, knowing that there's a read where guests are there and they're taking a liking to something. Okay, I'm going to go off script and go that way. So our guys, first of all, they travel every year. They travel everywhere, and they're exploring. Our Africa guys keep going back to Africa. Our Latin America team goes back to Latin America, and it's one rule when they go. And the rule we give them is when you go somewhere, go break it. Go break it. What that means is go there and go find the cracks. Go find whatever the norm is. Go break it completely. Come back and find something new. Even right now, in a pandemic-filled year where nobody can really travel that much, our guys have actually accelerated their training. They're going in, meeting with hotel managers. What improvements do you plan on making? What about this? What about this? What about this? Okay, what about the road over here? What about this over here? What's happening with the anti-poaching efforts here? What's happening here? As a result, we've actually come out with probably more new programs this year than we ever have probably in the last three combined. And it's all new ideas, new concepts, new elements, and it's all about pushing the boundaries. What's nice about this is, we hear about this new normal for the world. Well, in travel, what we say is, where the world is heading to, we've been there for 15 years. We're just waiting for everybody else to get there. We're simply waiting. And we've been accelerating the product, putting a bunch of new stuff out there, and having conversations like these, where we're talking about all the new things we're learning, learning which hotels are not going to be around, which ones are going to be around, which guides are accelerating, which ones are not. I was just in Colombia, for example, a few weeks ago. And one of the things that we're figuring out right now in Cartagena is how to design catamaran experiences where you can put some of these impoverished people out in the islands to work as fishermen, giving them mangroves that we pick out of the garbage to be able to go replant, to be able to repopulate that within the islands. So there's a whole conservation circumference around all of this.
Great perspective. And, I just want to add that when I first started doing this, some of my clients would say to me, okay, well, what's your destination expertise? Like, are you going to just sell Peru, or are you going to sell whatever? Pick a country or pick a small region, because I wanted to speak to an expert in that region. And my answer was, well, we are an expert in you. That's the idea. We know your ticks. We know the way you operate. It would not be efficient for me to just be a destination expert in one country. If I was, I would come work for Ashish and Big Five.
That's right.
So that would be the reason to do that. So what we say is, we have these partners such as Big Five that are not available to you, that live, eat, breathe, and many times have lived, and for the most part have lived in these places and travel there all the time. You don't have access to them. We do. So we take what we're good at, knowing you and adding amenities through Virtuoso. And then Ashish and his team with his product experts, we come at this, all three of us, all three entities, and make it a seamless experience. So I love that.
What you just said is probably the most important thing, and probably one of the best things I've heard in the last 8 months is, that experts in you. You could have the perfect itinerary. You can have the most remote experience. You can have the most remote guide. You can have the beautiful hotel. If you're not experts in the guest, how do you know it's right?
Yeah.
How do you know that it actually makes sense? How do you know that somebody has a fear of flying in small planes, or somebody loves camps where it's a canvas top, or somebody absolutely wants to go and it just wants complete cultural immersion? How do you know? Right, and that's really what it comes down to. When you have somebody who's an expert in the traveler, that makes our job so much easier, because now we can focus in on, okay, I know my parameters, I know the border, I know what confines I've got to work in. And what's great about that is experts in the person means the confines are not the typical confines of, oh, I have 14 days, this is the budget, this is that. It's not that. The confines are, this is, I grew up with this, I did this, I did that. I'll give you an example. I'll never forget the story. This was in Uruguay, and you see this painting behind me.
Yes.
I picked up this painting in India, in Udaipur, in early 2000s. And I love this painting. My wife and I were just talking about today that it doesn't match the motif that we're heading to in our house. But I still love this painting. It reminds me actually of these guests that were in Uruguay, and they stayed at this particular property, and there was a particular room in that property that we put them into, and for the sole purpose of a painting like this hanging over the bed reminded them of a painting they had in their living room in the very first house they lived in, and it took them back 30 years. So that little detail, there's no way we would know that if there wasn't somebody who was an expert in the guest.